Hi there, my excellent biology student. This is Mr. Philip Koma, the excellent biology tutor. This week, we're looking at reproduction in animals, and this is part 1. Without wasting much of your time, let us begin. I only have 3 objectives for this tutorial video. Number 1, we're going to look at the male reproductive system. Then we're going to look at the female reproductive system. And finally, we're going to look at secondary sexual characteristics in both males and females. Let us begin, my excellent biology students. Let me define reproduction as our introduction. So what is reproduction? Reproduction is a process by which living organisms produce their young ones, which are also known as offsprings. So it is simply a process by which living organisms produce their offsprings. You and I, we are living organisms. Therefore, we have the ability to produce. Okay. So we were born at some point. Okay. And that was as a result of the process known as reproduction. You're able to eat guavas today because of reproduction. A guava tree is able to reproduce. So reproduction is important. Why? Because it ensures that a species is preserved. We are going to have human beings tomorrow because of reproduction. We're going to have guava trees tomorrow because of this process known as reproduction. So it is very important. It's an important characteristic of living organisms. Otherwise, reproduction is simply a process by which living organisms produce their young ones or their offsprings. All right. Now, human reproduction. That's the focus for this week. Human reproduction. What you need to know, my excellent biology student, is that human bodies are equipped with sexual organs that are used for sexual reproduction. Human beings are equipped with sexual organs. Sexual organs, also known as gonads, okay? So we've got gonads. Gonads are simply sexual organs. And human beings are equipped with these sexual organs, which are also known as gonads. So the male gonads are called testes, singular testes, while the female gonads are called ovaries. So in males, we're going to find testes. In females, we're going to find ovaries. And these two, they are vital in the process of reproduction. Otherwise, these two are collectively known as gonads. So we've got the male gonads, known as the testes, and the female gonads, known as the ovaries. Okay, so the female and male gonads occur on separate bodies and are part of the reproductive system. Later on in this video, we are going to see these gonads that we are talking about. But for starters, let us look at the male reproductive system. So I'm sure that's the diagram we are all familiar with. Let's run through what we have. So we've got the bladder, as you can see. We've got the vas deferens. We've got the prostate gland. We've got the urethra. We've got the penis, the main guy. Okay, not the main guy, but you know, it's the one which is usually, you know what I mean. We've got the glans penis. We've got the foreskin. Okay, we've got the testis. We've got the scrotum. We've got the epididymis. We've got the Cowper gland. We've got the ejaculatory duct, and finally, we've got the seminal vesicle. All right, so now let's look at the functions of these parts that are forming up the male reproductive system. So the first parts that I'm going to look at, these are the main parts, but I'll also talk about the Cowper gland. I'll talk about the prostate gland as well as the seminal vesicle, though they're not, really important, but I will talk about them. Okay, so yeah, let's look at the first main parts which you should know. You just have to know. All right, testes, singular testes. Remember, these are male gonads. Okay, So these are a pair of structures that produce spermatozoa, also known as sperm, and they also secrete the hormone called testosterone. So the testes, they are the main guys. They are the ones that are responsible for producing sperm. Okay, so these are the male gonads found in the male reproductive system. So their function is to produce sperms and to also secrete a hormone. They are also considered to be endocrine glands. And the hormone they secrete is known as testosterone. I'm going to talk about testosterone later on. Otherwise, for now, know that it is a hormone secreted by the testes. All right. We've got the epididymis. Okay, the epididymis. I don't know how you can pronounce this word, but make sure that please you know the spelling, because examiners are really strict when it comes to spellings. So make sure that you know the spelling. So the epididymis, this is made up of coiled tubes where sperms are stored. So they simply store up spermatozoa. Okay, and they are coiled to just increase space for storage. That is why they are coiled, to just increase space for storage of sperms. Otherwise, sperms are stored in the epididymis. When I'm going to epididymis, yeah, I don't know how you can pronounce it, but for me, it is epididymis. Make sure that you just know the spelling, my excellent biology student. We've got another part which is known as the sperm duct, also known as vas deferens. Okay, vas deferens. So it's important that you know other terms or other words for these parts, because some books you find that they'll use this word and this term, and other books will use the other. So just be familiar with both. So for this one, it is not only known as the sperm duct, but the other name is vas deferens. So mkaona mubuku muli vas deferens, just know that they are referring to the sperm duct. The function of the sperm duct or vas deferens is, first of all, it is a tube that carries spermatozoa. It carries the sperms from the epididymis, where they are stored, to the urethra. Okay, so it is just a tube. The sperm duct is a tube that carries sperms from the epididymis to the urethra. Hope we are clear with the function of the vas deferens, also known as sperm duct. Urethra, also mentioned under excretion. It was mentioned as well under excretion. The function of the urethra is that it is the tube that carries semen from the sperm duct and urine from the bladder. That is why I said it was also mentioned under excretion, because it also carries urine. So the bladder stores up urine, and that urine now is, it exists the body, it will exit the body through the urethra. So it will come out of the body through the urethra. So the urethra is a passage for both semen as well as the bladder. So you've noticed that they are using the term semen, right? So there's a difference between sperms and semen. You're going to know the difference later on. Okay. So penis, the main guy, the main guy. Just to increase the size of this guy. People they like experimenting things. Otherwise, the penis is an erectile organ that is used to deposit semen into the vagina during sexual intercourse. So it is the guy, or it is the organ that is used to deposit the sperms, or to deposit semen in this case. Okay, so it is an erectile organ. What does that mean? It simply means the size is not permanent. It increases. It will increase in size. Okay, that is why it is an erectile organ, because it has got the ability to increase in size. So it is an erectile organ that is used to deposit semen into the vagina during sexual intercourse. The semen is deposited into the vagina by a process called ejaculation. So when they ask you to define ejaculation, it is simply a process by which semen is deposited into the vagina by the penis. Okay, so notice that we are using the term semen. I want you to know the difference. Okay, so there's a difference between semen and sperms. So follow me very well, my excellent biology students. Otherwise, these are the main parts that you should know. Testes, epididymis, sperm duct, urethra, penis. Now, let's talk about other parts which are also important in the reproductive system. You should also know these parts, okay? Though it's rare for me to see questions under these parts that I'm going to talk about, but please know them. The reason why I've included these parts, it's because, this is it. Sometimes they can be crazy, those guys. So ensure that you also know these parts. Starting with the prostate gland. So the prostate gland, its main function is to produce and secrete fluid that nourishes and protects sperms. The whitish color of sperms is because of this fluid which is secreted or produced by the prostate gland. And the function of this fluid produced by prostate gland is to nourish the sperms, meaning provide nutrients to the sperms, and also to protect the sperms. These guys are delicate, and they are a lot. Okay, so they have to be protected. So they are protected by this fluid, which also nourishes the sperms, meaning it provides the nutrients that are needed by the sperms. Remember, okay, we haven't yet looked at the sperm. Okay, we're going to look at it specifically, but it has got a part known as the mitochondria. Okay, and this mitochondria, we all know that that's where respiration takes place, right? So this part of a sperm which contains the mitochondria, it is the part that provides the sperm with energy required for it to swim. Okay, but for it to have that ability of swimming, meaning there's need for food so that it can carry out the process of respiration. Okay, so therefore this fluid secreted by the prostate gland will provide the food, the nutrients required by sperms to carry out a process of respiration so that they can have the energy to swim towards the ovaries. Isn't that lovely? Isn't that beautiful? So the prostate gland, its main function is to produce and secrete a fluid that nourishes and protects the sperm. The corpus gland, on the other hand, its function is to produce a clear lubricating fluid that helps to neutralize any acidity in the urethra and provides lubrication during sexual intercourse. Yeah, even the male reproductive system has got a part that produces a fluid to lubricate the penis during sexual intercourse. And that part which secretes the fluid is known as the corpus gland. Okay, so the function of the fluid secreted by the corpus gland is, one, to neutralize any acidity that can be found in the urethra. That's number one. Number two, it is to lubricate the penis during sexual intercourse. Okay, those are the functions. So there's a difference between the functions of the fluid secreted by the corpus gland and the functions of the fluid produced or secreted by the prostate gland. Okay, by the way, these are exocrine glands. They are exocrine glands because what they secrete goes outside, like the mammary glands in females. Those are exocrine glands. What they secrete, it goes on the outside. They are not endocrine glands, but they are considered to be exocrine glands. All right. And then we've got the seminal vesicles, which are responsible for producing a fluid as well that makes up a significant portion of semen. This fluid provides nourishment as well and energy for the sperm, helping them survive and swim effectively. It also helps to protect the sperm and enhance their motility. Similar functions with the fluid produced by the prostate gland. Yeah. So all these fluids that we're mentioning, all of them, when you combine them together with the sperms, they will now form up what we call semen. So sperms are part of the semen. Okay. So when a man ejaculates, what we see, that's semen. And in the semen, we have sperms. So these fluids that I have mentioned, okay, they form up semen together with the sperms. Hope we are clear, my excellent biology student. Otherwise, that's the male reproductive system. Maybe na bladder tikambepo. Bladder, it simply stores urine. Okay, I mentioned this when we were looking at excretion. Okay, so this is the male reproductive system. To just emphasize on some parts, we're going to run through some parts that we can see in this 3D view. So we are going to first talk about the main guy, the penis. Okay, so the penis is just an erectile organ, like I mentioned in the slides. It's just an erectile organ which is used to deposit semen. Okay, it is used to deposit semen in the vagina during sexual intercourse. So if we turn around, okay, I'm sure we can now have a clear view. Below, we've got these two guys, which are the male gonads. These are the testes. The testes. Let me just highlight them. So those are the testes. So singular testes. So I have highlighted one testis, and these are the male gonads. They are responsible for secreting a hormone known as testosterone, which is responsible for male secondary sexual characteristics. We're going to talk about that later. And they also produce sperms, the testes. They produce sperms. So it's a pair. There are two. Okay. Otherwise, these are the male gonads. What else can we see? What else can we see? Let's look around. Let's look around. Okay. So we have these guys known as the seminal vesicles. Okay, they produce a fluid which forms up large portion of semen, like I discussed, like I mentioned when we're looking at the functions. So this is the seminal vesicle. Okay, we've got the seminal vesicle. What else can we see? Let's explore, my excellent students. Let's explore. So these are the prostate glands. So aka na aka. Let me highlight the other one. This one and this one. That's the prostate gland. They form up the prostate gland. They secrete a hormone. This not hormone, sorry. They secrete a fluid. Okay, that white color that we see, the milkish color that we see, it is as a result of this fluid. Okay, and the fluid which is secreted by the prostate gland, it nourishes the sperms. It also provides protection. The sperms, they need nutrients for them to move around, to swim towards the egg, and that energy will come from the food which is being provided by this fluid produced by the prostate gland. Okay, so otherwise that's the prostate gland. Okay, and then we've got these little guys. I don't know if you can see them. Let me just bring them. These little guys. Okay, so these are the Cowper glands or Cowper's gland. As you can see. So the Cowper gland, they are the ones that secrete a clear liquid, not liquid, sorry, fluid. And this fluid, it is the one that clears the urethra. This fluid also neutralizes any acidity in the urethra. So during sexual intercourse, before a man ejaculates, there is need for that fluid to be secreted. So it will be secreted, or it will be produced, it will be released prior to ejaculation to just clear the urethra and to ensure that it neutralizes any acidity that can be found in the urethra. That fluid, it is produced by the Cowper gland. Ndio tutamini muona tuma little guys. Okay, they have an important role, my excellent biology students. What else can we talk about? What else can I think I've mentioned the main things. Okay, I think I've seen another thing that we can look at. So we can also talk about the sperm duct, the one which carries semen. Okay, it carries semen, it takes it to the urethra. Okay, yeah, that's the sperm duct. As you can see, the one I have highlighted. All right, my excellent biology students, that's the male reproductive system. Let's now talk about the female reproductive system. Let's now jump on to the other side and let's look at the female reproductive system. Isn't this beautiful? Just like a flower. Okay, I remember my teacher telling me that, telling the class, the female reproductive system looks like a flower. It's just like a flower. So what parts do we have? We've got the fallopian tube, okay, also known as the oviduct. Okay, that's the other term you can use. Then we've got the ovary, and then we've got the uterus, we've got the cervix, we've got the vagina, and we've got the hymen. Okay, so the hymen is not really considered, but yeah, it's there. Okay, so let's look at the function of these parts that are forming up the female reproductive system. So we're going to start by looking at the first two. We've got the ovaries, okay, the ovaries, the ones that are in red. So these are a pair of gonads. Remember, ovaries are female gonads, yeah? So these are a pair of gonads responsible for formation of eggs and for secretion of estrogen and progesterone. So the ovaries are responsible for one, formation of eggs, also known as ovum or ovum, depending on the number of teeth. That can influence your pronunciation. And the other function is to secrete hormones, which are estrogen as well as progesterone. So yeah, that's what the ovaries do. They simply form up eggs and they secrete hormones. They are also considered to be endocrine glands because they have that ability of secreting hormones. And the hormones secreted by the ovaries are estrogen as well as progesterone. Clear? I know you are clear, my excellent biology student. And then we've got the oviduct, also known as fallopian tube or fallopian tube. This is simply a tube through which the ovum travels from the ovary to the uterus. It is also the site where fertilization occurs. So the fallopian tube, also known as the oviduct, it is the one which is like a passage. It's a passage for the ovum, for the eggs, as the egg is moving from the ovaries going to the uterus. So the fallopian tube is characterized with cilia, okay, which helps in moving the eggs as they are after ovulation, as the eggs are moving from the ovaries going to the uterus. Okay, otherwise it is just a passage through which the ovum travels from the ovary to the uterus. It is also the site where fertilization occurs. So when the sperm cells swim, they will find the egg in the oviduct and fertilization is going to take place. Okay, so it's a site of fertilization. All right. And then we've got the uterus. This is the site of implantation and development of the fetus. So once fertilization has occurred in the oviduct or fallopian tube, the egg, which is now fertilized, it will continue, moving until it will be implanted in the uterus. And once implantation has taken place, it will start developing from there until it becomes a fetus and then baby, and then it comes out. Then birth occurs. Otherwise, the uterus is just a site of implantation. That is where an egg will be implanted. Okay, it's like the ground where you plant a seed and then it begins to grow. It's the same thing with the uterus. It's just the site of implantation. It's more like the ground where the uterus, where the egg is going to be implanted, and then it will start developing from there. Okay, so that's the function of the uterus. Cervix. What is the function of the cervix? So the cervix, this connects the vagina to the uterus. That's number one. It connects. It's like a link. It connects the vagina to the uterus, and it forms part of the birth canal. What does that mean, birth canal? During birth, it forms a passage for the baby as a baby is coming out of the womb. So it forms part of the birth canal, a passage through which a baby will come out during birth. Okay. So the other function is that it is the point where semen is deposited. So during sexual intercourse, during ejaculation, as the penis is being used to deposit the semen is deposited on the cervix. So it is the point where semen is deposited during sexual intercourse. So that's the second function. Actually, that's the fourth function. Then the first function is that it connects the vagina to the uterus, and then the second function, it forms part of the birth canal. Then the third function, it is the point where semen is deposited during sexual intercourse. Then the other function, which is the fourth function, is that the cervix also secretes fluid that lubricate the vagina during sexual intercourse. So the lubrication is done by the cervix. So this is done to prevent friction during sexual intercourse. So for things to flow nicely, there is need for a lubricant which is secreted by the cervix. Okay, so the cervix also secretes fluids that lubricate the vagina during sexual intercourse, and the purpose of this is to simply reduce friction. Okay, I hope we are clear. I hope we are clear, my excellent biology students. Vagina. What's the function of the vagina? This is the part where an erect penis is inserted during sexual intercourse. It also forms part of the birth canal. I'm sure we know what it means when we say birth canal. It's just like a passage during birth. So the vagina also forms part of the passage during childbirth as the baby is coming out. So this is the part where an erect penis is inserted during sexual intercourse. So that's the female reproductive system, my excellent biology students. So this is the female reproductive system according to our 3D view. So let's explore and learn something else on the female reproductive system. So we first have the main guys, okay, which are the female gonads known as the ovaries. Okay, so these are the ovaries where we're going to find the eggs. Okay, the eggs are formed by the ovaries. Not only that, but ovaries also secrete hormones, which is estrogen and progesterone. These two hormones, they are secreted by the ovaries. Therefore, ovaries are also considered to be endocrine glands. So those are the ovaries. As you can see, these are the ovaries. Okay, and then once the eggs are produced by the process of ovulation, they are going to now travel through a tube known as the oviduct. So let me just highlight the oviduct so that we can be able to see the oviduct. Let me just move it here. Okay, just a minute, so that we can have a good view. All right. So that's the oviduct. Okay, and the oviduct, what it does is that it is a passage for the ovum or the egg, which has been produced by the process of ovulation as it travels going to the uterus. So the oviduct, which is also known as the fallopian tube, it is the one that carries, or it is a passage for the egg as it is moving from the ovaries going to the uterus. Okay, and then we've got the uterus, okay, where implantation takes place. So once an egg has been fertilized in the oviduct, okay, or in the vas deferens, it will be implanted in the walls of the uterus. So that's the uterus, my excellent student. Though it's closed right now, as you can see, it looks it's closed, but inside we're going to find the uterus. Okay, we're going to find the uterus where implantation is going to take place. Okay, so that's the uterus, as you can see. Can I find the cervix? Let me try. Unfortunately, I couldn't find the cervix, but ensure that you know the function. The function of the cervix, according to the diagram that I showed you, is that it is the one that secretes a fluid that lubricates the vagina during the process of sexual reproduction. And then the vagina, it is just a part where an erect penis is inserted during sexual reproduction. That's the function. Then it also forms part of the birth canal. All right, my excellent biology students. So that's the female reproductive system. And yeah, I've just emphasized on the parts that I have already discussed in the previous slide. Now, let's look at the secondary sexual characteristics. Now, let's look at the final part of this tutorial video, which is to look at the secondary sexual characteristics. Okay, secondary sexual characteristics. So we're going to look at the male secondary sexual characteristics and the female secondary sexual characteristics. So the male secondary sexual characteristics, they are influenced by a hormone known as testosterone, which is secreted by the testes. That's the function of the testosterone, the hormone which is secreted by the testes. It is responsible for the male secondary sexual characteristics. So when we're talking about the secondary sexual characteristics, what are we talking about exactly? These are just features that will start developing after puberty, okay? Things that we're going to start seeing on a male body when puberty commences, okay? That's what secondary sexual characteristics are. When we're talking about the primary sexual characteristics, we're just talking about, once a child is born, what are you going to see? Okay, the penis is going to be there, everything is going to be intact for the primary, characteristics. But after primary now, we go to secondary. And for secondary to take place, to occur or to start, there is a hormone which is needed to influence the secondary sexual characteristics. And that hormone is known as testosterone, which is secreted by the gonads, which are the male gonads, in this case, the testes. So what are the male secondary sexual characteristics? The first one is, sperm production. Sperm production. After puberty, you find that the male will start producing sperms. Sperm production begins. And then enlargement of testicles and penis. You find that the penis becomes bigger, and as well as the testicles. Okay. Development of pubic hair, beards, hair on the chest and in the armpits. We're going to see hair developing. Okay. Okay. Yeah. And then deepening of the voice. Deepening of the voice. I remember when mine deepened. Yeah, I hope it's deep. But yes, that's also a male secondary sexual characteristic. Deepening of the voice. And then the body becomes more muscular. The body becomes more muscular. So these characteristics that we're talking about, they are influenced by a hormone known as testosterone. So if a male does not have a deep voice and maybe they do not have a muscular body, it doesn't mean that they're not normal. Yeah, these things, some of these things, it's genes, it's genetic. Okay, it is simply genetic. Okay, so nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Now, for the female secondary sexual characteristics, they are influenced by a hormone known as estrogen, which is secreted by the female gonads, which are known as ovaries. So please, if even do muvizive, please, okay, study, my students, study. So the female secondary sexual characteristics, they are influenced by a hormone known as estrogen. Okay, so what are they? What are they? Menstrual cycle commences. We're going to look at the menstrual cycle in part 2. Part 2 is all about the menstrual cycle. Okay, so it commences. And then enlargement of breasts. Okay, that will also occur. Widening of hips. Okay, that will also occur. So like I said, some of these things, it's genetic. So if you don't have it, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. These things are simply genetics. Okay, you inherit them. Okay, so yeah, I don't think you're not normal. Like I said, under the male reproductive system, just because you do not have a muscular body, don't think you're not okay. You're okay, my brother, my sister. You are fine. Yeah, you're okay. Okay, otherwise, widening of hips is one of the female secondary sexual characteristics. Development of pubic hair and hair in the armpits, that will also start happening. Okay, then enlargement of the vagina. So these characteristics, they are also influenced by a hormone, and this hormone, like I said, is known as estrogen. And then skin becomes more tender and supple. So skin in color soft. Okay, but like I said again, some of these things is just genetic. It's just genetic. Otherwise, these are the secondary sexual characteristics in both males and females. We've covered a number of things in this tutorial video, my excellent biology students. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Watch out for part 2. Make sure that you study. Okay, make sure that you study the notes. Very important. Very important. I'll see you in the next tutorial video. Leave a like, leave a comment if you've enjoyed this video. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, make sure that you do so, okay? Otherwise, take care. From me, Mr. Philip Koma, the excellent biology tutor. Stay blessed.